All right. Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm excited to have you here. Really looking forward to this conversation. But welcome to the Center for Leadership, the podcast where leadership begins at the center, you. I am Carrie Terhark, your host, and I believe that in order to lead others effectively, we must first learn to lead ourselves. This segment is called Beyond the Title, where we have conversations to explore the raw, unscripted, behind the scenes stories of people discovering how to turn their passion into purpose. We're going to share practices, insights, and tools to help you stay centered, resilient, and ready to empower those in your care. Leadership isn't just a role, it's a choice, and it starts with showing up for yourself. So let's dive in. Yay. Hello. Welcome, Nicole.
Hello, hello.
I need the sound effects like the clapping and all that good stuff. But for all of you joining us today, this is my friend Nicole, and she is the author of Be Great. And I knew of Nicole way before we met. Yeah, I was working in prevention, and you were kind of a legend in the prevention field. When I had an opportunity to meet you, I was just love your energy and your spark and just everything, all the passion that you bring to the work that you do. So I start every conversation with the same question, which is, what lights your fire?
Ooh, I love this question. And it's interesting because I can think of many things that light my fire. One is prevention, the space where we met and crossed paths. And then I think connected to that more broadly is public health. My
Mhm.
background's in public health and sociology. I really care a lot about social and cultural norms, how they impact human behavior. And for me, specifically, behavior that puts us towards optimizing who we are.
Mhm.
So, like, the thing that lights my fire is stuff that moves me towards that, whether it's speaking, learning something new, meeting other people, discovering something new about myself, and thinking around how I can contribute to us as humans, really thinking about community health
Mhm.
being my neighbor's keeper, really kind of thinking about some values that I think would make the world a better place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I think a lot about, actually.
I think that's what connected us right away, is because it's also how I look at leadership. I think there's so many things in our world that are out of our control that we put our focus and energy into. And we're trying to influence so many things that almost drive us down this path to unraveling.
Mhm.
And really the power that it has to come back to yourself and to really say, like, how do I lead? Like you said, how do I do community from here? How do I lead here first, and then let that ripple effect out into the world? How does that, what impact does that make? And I think when we first met, I think that was our energy, that was like, here we go, that's the lightning. And then when your book came out and I read it, I was like, whoa,
You're
like
like, yeah,
it's just in my head.
yeah, right. Oh gosh, yeah. When you were talking, the thing I think about it, when you kept saying, like, if we were focused on ourselves, so much would change because it's true. Like, we keep trying to change these systems, but it's like if everybody focused on themselves and the improvement of self, we make up the system.
We are the
We
system.
work the system. We're a part of it. So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with
Yeah.
you. You know,
Yeah.
and I'm excited because I feel like the more we have, like meeting you, meeting other people like that, the more we have people, I feel like it gets sticky, you know? And I'm curious to see the domino impact
Mhm.
of
Mhm.
leaders thinking differently and moving
Mhm.
differently.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I think in this time, um, just this time in our world, in our country, there's just so many things that are trying to distract us, that are trying to pull us in, that are trying to divide us, that are trying to bring this negative energy into our life. And I can see, like, since the last couple of years, really, really focusing on raising my vibration, right? Really spending time in that center, knowing my purpose, knowing how I can influence and within my sphere, and knowing that that sphere has ripple effects. It is almost like opened my eyes to say, when I look at other people and think, what are you doing? Like, I can,
Yeah, yeah.
well, how are you walking through life this way, knowing that I also at one point was walking through life that way and digging and fighting and doing all these things underneath that really weren't going anywhere. So tell me a little bit about what was your journey? How did you get to be great?
Oh my God, how did I get to be great? I would say the beginnings of it really started probably around 2018, 2019. I have a neighbor literally across the street who introduced me to the movie The Secret on Netflix.
Mm,
He had found it, he was like, "Ooh, check this out." So I watched it. I was really intrigued. And I came home that night and I watched it like three more times, Carrie.
mhm.
I took some notes. I looked up the people because some of them I'd heard of. Like I knew of Bob Proctor, for instance.
Yeah.
Jack Canfield from
Mhm.
Chicken Soup for the Soul, right? There were some of the names I was like, wait, I know some of these folks and I know they're successful. But I looked up everyone else and it was incredible for a movie that was built in the 90s to be in 2019 and see those folks, their own growth, their own path. I was like, okay, there's something here. Well, the researcher in my brain, I like to find the roots of stuff.
Mhm.
And that's when I stumbled upon Wallace D. Wattles
Mhm.
as what I feel like is one of the earlier persons who talked about mindset stuff and greatness and all sorts of things. And so I came across his trilogy. He wrote The Science of Being Rich, The Science of Being Well, and The Science of Being Great. And I spent a lot of time first marinating on The Science of Being Rich.
Yep.
That's the
Good
one
place to
that stuck to
start.
me first, okay? And to be fair, a lot of the people who move into this kind of space of richness and wealth, the science of being rich really like
Mm,
lends to that. But I moved into the science of being great, and it was something about that particular text that just drew me because it has aspects of wellness and richness because they are a part of greatness. You got to have your body to do great work. And frankly, we live in a world that uses money. You
mm,
got to have money to help people.
yeah.
You can't help people if you're poor yourself. It
Right.
just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So for me, the science of being great really just, and I've been reading and rereading this book since 2019. And so how I got from there to here is the one challenge I had, Carrie, is this man was born in 1865 and died in 1911. Okay. He was a white man, all right. And that time and space in our history had a lot of different philosophies around how you treat people, who's a person, who's not. And I wouldn't be surprised if his content, especially on greatness, was pushed down because
Mm,
his words would have said, like, I mean, look at you and I. I have brown skin, you have light skin. In his world, we wouldn't even be having this conversation,
no.
but okay.
Yeah.
And so I'm not surprised that probably his text, The Signs of Being Great, really was like do do do, because he doesn't. I mean, if you read his text, it says we all are, no matter what we look like, because we're human. Do you get what I mean? And
Yeah.
I just felt like I want to lift out that message, but I also needed to lift out and pull apart some of. He was also Christian, and I do believe the text applies beyond Christian religion.
Yeah.
So I made the effort to actually remove those specific contexts too. A lot of his examples were very heavy laden in the Bible, or frankly, in the great humans who had lived before 1911. Okay,
Yes.
there was that. So he had a lot of examples of people who I'm like, well, we've got some greater people who have lived since he died. And I kept thinking, if I could read this without some of this other stuff, that would be powerful for me, but it'd be powerful for other people too.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's what really began to get my wheels turning, probably in around 2023 or so, to say, Nicole, what if you rewrote this book and pulled out the gold from it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that's
I,
kind of how we got to it. It's been my own learning, my
yeah,
own self-discovery, if you will, and wanting to share it with other people.
I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and we were talking about that. And it's like, when do you know that it's time? I'm building something. I'm whether it's a coaching business or an entrepreneur or whatever it is. I'm still learning, and so I'm not the expert yet. And I love the idea that it's our own, sharing our own experiences and being vulnerable in that is what draws people to us. We're all students of life, right? We're all learning. We're all have things that challenges that we're trying to navigate through. And then when you find a nugget like gold like this, to be able to say, like, this for me was transformational, and rather than just using it and saying, I'm going to live this, but being able to share it with other people so other people can be on that journey with you is so empowering. So
Yeah,
thank you
yeah.
for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. I do have a funny story for how the book part got written.
Yeah.
Because that part was, and stories are fun, but I have a writing partner, and we've been encouraging each other to, do things that generate income in our lives, but also contribute to society. And we had planned to write a couple books together, but we knew we wanted to do self-publishing. So initially, we actually got scammed. When you start searching for self-publishing, the bots are great at like, hey, you want
Yeah.
to self-publish? And so we got approached by a group pretending to be Barnes and Nobles, which I didn't know. They were offering us a 2-for-1. We get both of our books done. I was like, this is great. So I signed up for it. We started to move things forward. We had booked our retreat because we knew we wanted to like set aside time. But maybe like a week after doing the purchase, something just didn't set right. I started to ask some questions. I actually looked up Barnes and Noble self-publishing from their website, and the website I found was different than the one I had been communicating with.
Oh no.
So I ended up, you know, dealing with that, but we'd already booked the trip. So when we went, I decided not to waste the time. We didn't, neither one of us did the books that we were originally there for. But I said, you know what? I have another book that's in my spirit. I'll just take the 3 days and I'll write this book instead. And
Mhm.
that's literally how it happened. So like as much as like I got into it, had a little negative, wonky energy around it, I was grateful for the whole thing because frankly, I hadn't set aside time to just do it, Carrie.
Mhm.
It was just an idea in
Mhm.
the back of my mind. And this
Mhm.
moment happened and I said, you know what, this is it, let me do it. And sometimes it's you're not necessarily even ready.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
yourself, because I was nervous about doing this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Rewriting someone else's words, wondering, am I going to be the only person who gets this?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful I stepped out on faith in like making it happen and doing the thing and then publishing because it was pretty quick. Within a few weeks of me writing it, I found someone to do the book cover art. I found someone to help me on Fiverr, like figure out how to get it on Amazon, self-publishing. And within like a month, it was out by the end of July. It was wild.
I there's something in there too when you really talk about the the faith part, right? And just being, knowing that it's okay, knowing that you might not have all the answers, but really leaning into that faith. I think for me too, in a lot of this book, as I was reading, I read the whole thing start to finish. Um, and then I've gone back and I try and read just a little bit at a time and just really marinate on it and think about it and how does it apply in my life and what is it that I really need to work on. And that has been coming up for me too, where I've had this idea in my head for a long time about something that I really wanted to do. Um, and I get really excited about it. And then when I go to sit down and put it on paper, there's these things that come in my head around, you can't do this, or you're not really sure, or all the doubts, right? Everything that's ever been said to me kind of filters back in. And stop myself. And then rather than leaning into that faith and being like, no, like this is okay. This is, you have energy here where you're going to put your energy, it's going to go. Believe, have faith that when you put it out there, everything's going to come back. And that I've had that happen last couple of months, where it was just like, no, you know this, say it out loud, right? And I think for me too, sometimes it's just saying it out loud to somebody else and somebody hears it back, and then you're like, okay, yep, nope, that's where it's going to go, and it'll start to develop. And just knowing that the universe, that divine intelligence, it's there, it's ready to give back what we already have put into the world.
Totally. There's a really great quote that I like from Wallace D. Wattles. He says, "Desire is possibility seeking expression."
Mm,
And I
mm,
really let that sit in me because I understand the the gremlins that are in your mind to not do. And I keep saying, the fact that I desire it, I know it's actually already possible.
mhm,
I just have to allow my hands and my feet and my actions to move forward on the thing, you
mhm.
know? And so I really hear and resonate with everything that you said and shared there. And I imagine everyone else who listens will too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think when we lead from that place and that center and that heart,
Mhm.
right? Like that is, again, I think we step into the world with the best intentions, with our best self, with the best energy, and that is felt in every room that we walk into. There's a little segment in here that was one of the first things that I really had to marinate on, that you wrote. Um, and it is, lay aside greed, desire riches only for the sake of the soul, never for the indulgence of the flesh. Cast out pride and vanity. Harbor no ambition to rule or outdo others. This is vital. For no temptation is more insidious than the selfish desire to dominate.
Yeah. Mm.
Mm,
Snaps for that.
mm. Highlighted, like where
Yeah.
I think as somebody who can get on that hamster wheel of life
Mhm.
and look at what everybody else is doing, and want what everybody else has, or trying to compete. And I think this was really vital for me when I started my own business, that I really wanted to stay focused on my purpose, on my values, on the things that I wanted to do, and really shutting out the noise from the outside world. Because again, all of that that's coming at me is trying to do something that is outside of what I really know that I'm meant to do. And it's something that I come back to often, right? When I find myself in that drift, to be, for that temptation, right? That desire to dominate, that desire to win, to do better, to stand out, and not for the good of the what I'm doing, but
For
for
your own.
something. Yeah,
Hallelujah.
look at me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That whole passage right there reminds me of one of the reasons I'm very selective with social media, because we live in a world that is about competition, is about flashiness, is about like, ooh, this person's doing better than you. And then socially and politically, the domination that happens, right? Economically,
Yeah.
socially, in society, to lord over other people, you know? So it's just interesting to kind of think about. And for that reason, I am very selective with my use on social media. And I have a tendency to like not look at other people's stuff, to put my head down and be like, okay, here's what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Here's my heart, here's my intention, and here's what I'm
Mhm.
putting forth. Uh,
Yeah. I'm really doing the same, because that doom scroll. Um,
you can get locked in.
and
They
I think I go into it thinking of, I'm not going to be biased, right? Like I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to make judgment. I'm not going to let it sway my attitude or my feeling. And it is not very long where you're like, whoa.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's literally created to do that.
Mhm.
And it takes a lot of discipline, self-discipline to not get roped into it,
Mhm.
you know? And so I'm like, where I think about connected to this is like, okay, well, as more of us focus differently and potentially we start posting differently, will that impact the algorithm? What's the opposite of doom scrolling? I don't even think we have a name for it.
No,
I
no.
want to be in a place where that's what we're seeing, We'll have to figure out a name for it.
I agree. I agree. And I think it plays into a lot of the work that you and I both do, which is having a conversation with your neighbor, right? Going out into your community, experiencing, right? Understanding where people are coming from, understanding. And I think when when we've taken the time to center ourselves, right? And be great here, I'm less threatened by anything else that's happening in the world in that conversation. I can step into it from a place of certainty and know that I have something to offer, but also know that others have other things to offer me as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. Oh, it's just so into my mind. It's like I've got so many thoughts in my head, of thinking about the potential impact of people recognizing their own internal greatness, I think that's
Mhm.
the other kind of just current throughout the whole book is that you already are great
Mhm.
now. You're it. And that really, when I started reading the original text, that's what struck me the most
Yeah.
is this continual message of you actually are. It's a matter of you recognizing it, you
Yeah.
living it, you having the courage to express it, you know? Versus sometimes what we do is we look at other people who we perceive to be great and we envy, we compare,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
contrast.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
and I think to that point, right? And knowing that I'm great, that I'm already built to be great. And and everything that I need has already been given here to me. It also helps us to give grace in other people. And you mentioned that too. Like there's just no bad people. They're just people who haven't figured that out yet. Right. Like
that's
I
been really
love that. Like and it is, and it's a great reminder for me, especially when I'm doom scrolling or I'm on social media and I want to judge somebody, or how can you think that? How can you say that? And it's just that like people are not seeing the world the way that I see it, or haven't found this divine intelligence within themselves. And all I can do is hope and pray that they do, because they have it as well. They have that power and they are great.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, I totally love that. And I've wondered, I've marinated on these words long enough that it's the recognition of looking at someone who I want to judge or someone who I think is bad and remembering the text,
Mm-hmm.
having to
Mm-hmm.
autocorrect my own inner
Mm-hmm.
thoughts. It's
Mm-hmm.
mental energy that I put into that space. I would say the one thing I think about is I told someone else this. I wrote this book also for me. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
practitioner.
Yeah.
Okay. This was like built off of Wallace D. Wattles' original words, right? So this is not like, oh, Nicole Augustine's philosophy. I'm reading the words and practicing too. Like, oh God, Nicole, you got to get a little better at that
Right.
now. I read, I underline, I go back because I'm always cultivating myself in the message too, because I
Mhm.
didn't always think like this. This is
Yeah.
something that I became to think about. And I would say the other reason I wrote the book too is I'm hoping that I'll be able to have conversations with more people. Because as people started to notice that I talk and think differently, they'd want to ask me the why and the how. And it's like, well, how do I regurgitate the signs of being great to you? Because I had to work hard to start thinking like this. Whereas now I can be like, you know what? There's a book you can read. Go check it out. You'll understand why I think the way I think and why I talk the way I talk now.
Yeah. Yeah. I also really appreciated the exercises that you put into the book that help you through that, right? To catch yourself, to encourage yourself, to hear your own words back,
Mhm.
to have them say, because we're rewiring our brain, right? Our pathways have been developed and we think the way that we think based on years and years and years of programming, and it's now kind of resetting that, and it has to be a practice. And
Mm.
I do really, really well with it for a while, and then I slip, just, and then you come back to it and you're like, okay, wow, I felt that, right? And I think that's the biggest thing, is before I was completely unaware, where now it feels like, oh, I feel that feels different, that energy feels really tough. What am I not doing? Oh, well, yeah, I'm not really shifting and taking the time. So I really appreciated the exercises and the tips in there.
That's awesome. I think very few people realize how much negative chatter they have in their
Mhm.
mind,
Yeah.
and it's until you start taking the inventory of that piece it's not until then you begin to realize, oh man, I have a baseline of negativity, whether it's around me thinking something is too hard or too difficult, or I'm not ready yet for it, or,
Mhm.
you know, that when you really start reading this and thinking like, oh man, you spend a lot of time countering the negative thoughts, reshifting those thoughts to say, how can I have a better thought for myself than the one that I'm experiencing right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
That takes
Yeah.
work, takes
It
time.
does.
Yeah, it really does. It
It
really
does work.
does.
It does work.
It really
Tell me
does.
a little bit about how you've experienced, how you've experienced being great. When you think about your time developing the book and you're in practice, like what has really shifted for you in your life?
Yeah. I would say so there's a chapter that talks about being great at home
Mm,
as like your first application of greatness, that you should start at home first before you, as he calls it, like abroad. So chapter 14, it's not even till chapter 14 that we even talk about action home. So for me, where I've experienced the best first greatness is how I started changing how I interact with my loved ones, my friends, people who are close to me. And what has been powerful is there's a statement I can hear in my mind that says, there's nothing wrong with anyone. Everything is right with the world, and everything is right with people around you. Mind your own business. I was like, oh shoot,
oh man.
yeah, okay, you're talking to me. And as I started to do that, I noticed like one, I interacted with people differently. Like when family members or friends would come to me about stuff, I wouldn't immediately move into like problem solving mode or judging them mode. And if I did, I'm having the mental chatter for myself. Okay, Nicole, is this acting great right now? Are you judging them? You know? And so I think my family and friends have experienced a change in me as a person. And so I think I began by applying greatness at home first. Like that chapter 14 really set for me, because it's through that, again, it's like a reminder, like you bring it home, bring it closer. You can do a whole bunch of great acts to the world, but if the people who know you and closest to you can't feel and sense that, it's for naught, really, you
And
know?
I and it's that part, right? It's the feeling and the sensing. And
Yeah.
you talk about this in there too, that it's not necessarily about, I have to tell you, hey, by the way, I've read this Be Great book and I am now great because I'm doing the things, right? It's this silent energy
Mhm.
and that essence that people will feel, and they'll feel you different. They'll experience you different. Like you said, that's what asked the questions, like,
Oh,
you
great,
responded to that differently.
great.
You're taking that on differently than you did before. What is it? What's behind that? How are you doing that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would say expanding from there, where I also saw like greatness showing up for me is like in the workspaces when I'm in leadership or supervisor, I have had the courage to be different.
Mm,
Okay. I think there's some really unhealthy culture in our workspaces, you know? Especially as we have moved into online and working from home. I feel like there's some employers that are just really unnecessarily rigid with like how people can be productive. And so I would say one of the ways I've been able to be great is having the courage when I'm in those leadership positions to do things different than what other supervisors have done.
Yeah.
And I call it being great in small things, you know. And what's been powerful about those experiences, but almost every time I've had the pleasure of leading or being a director or something, I always have people say, I have never experienced a supervisor like you. I've never experienced someone above me like you. Like, and I say above just in hierarchy because most of the people I work with, they're like, I feel like we're right here. And I'm like,
Yeah.
we are. We're a
Yeah.
team. I can't
Yeah.
do stuff without you. Because
Yeah.
if you think about it, a real leader doesn't do. If you're doing and leading, you got it backwards. You're overworked and you're burned out.
Yeah.
A leader inspires action from others. That
Right.
takes trust.
Yes. Yes, I was just going to say it's the trust and the listening and being able to say that I'm not here to tell you, right? But I'm here to ask you. And that kind of goes in a lot of the work also that I do is really thinking about asking and inviting people in and what do you need and where are you, right? Like in knowing where people are, where they're coming from can help me as a leader to get them where they want to go rather than it anticipating that everybody's at the same place.
Yeah.
And that's just not, it's not realistic. And I can't expect more from you when you don't necessarily understand that there's something different.
Yeah. 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 Wow. This is good stuff, Carrie. Really, really good stuff. I'm so excited to be talking about this book, to be looking at the content, but also to be sharing the story around how it came together. Because I'm still a little bit of shock myself. I didn't have this in my mind like in January of this year. You know what I mean? Not as a physical thing that I'm touching,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So that is like cool and surreal for me, while also like hearing people who've read it, it resonates. That's been just mind blowing because if there are people who write, you'll know there is this vulnerability around putting
Mhm.
your words out there because
Mhm.
they're your words and people will judge them because they can't help but to. Either people will love it or not, you know?
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure what the response was going to be to the content. So that it's been really, really cool to see like people who have read it and it resonates with them.
Yes. Yes. Hmm. Well, thank you. We are at the about the end of our time, even though I know that we can continue to have this conversation so much longer.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for coming on and for sharing, for being vulnerable to share your story and how it came about, for being courageous and writing it down,
Mhm.
and being able to share with others. I look forward to many more conversations and seeing you tell more people about this and being part of the Be Great movement. Just super excited for it all.
I'm excited too. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to talk with you, the invitation, the space, the platform, because this is your own version of Be Great. You know
Yes.
what you're doing, you know what I'm saying? And so I look forward to continuing to see the way what you're doing grows. I want to be a supporter, a cheerleader of your work and how you're influencing the world too. And I'm happy to be a sister in the Be Great world together.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to put some information, a link to the book in the description so you all can get your copy of Be Great. It's such an amazing, easy read that you are going to continue to go back and read again. One, very timely as we're getting into the holiday season, that we can all be great as we show up in our family spaces,
Mhm.
and a great gift to be giving to people to encourage them also to be great. So again, thank you for being here, and we'll talk again soon.
Okay, sounds good.